Hey everyone, so after a rough couple of days, I'm finally kind of back and feeling quite good, and I decided to do some really pretty makeup and get on camera and just kind of do a nice, light-hearted, silly little video with you while I enjoy it. Just a small, cheeky glass of my favourite wine. It sounds like I'm drunk already, I haven't even had a sip yet. It's just tired. I figured today we'd do something kind of silly and fun, and we would get back to my roots in kind of talking about atheism and stuff like that, but we're not really going to be looking at too much of a serious video today, just something that's a little bit silly, but that honestly I still think deserves criticism because the kind of mindset behind it I think is a dangerous mindset to have. I don't want to bore you too much, read this disclaimer, and let's jump into the video. So today we are going to be hearing the testimony of a young woman who believes she failed her driving test because of demons. Yeah.
Today I have a testimony to share with you, and it's going to help quite a lot of you who are watching this. I actually wanted to share about how the Lord helped me to pass my driving test after 7 days of lessons.
Do you think God could maybe do us all a favour and share around a little of that love, please? Because my Christian brother has been trying to pass his driving test for the last, I don't know, 5, 6, maybe even 10 years. I don't know. It's been a long time. And he still hasn't done it yet. He's taken lessons on and off. I think he's taken a... I don't even know if he's taken a test. But if God is responsible for helping people pass their tests, then you'd think he'd help out a good Christian boy like my brother, wouldn't you? It is weird though, isn't it? It makes you think, you know, almost as though learning a skill has nothing to do with God. Nah, it can't be that, can it? Or, you know, if a God does exist and he really did help this girl, then maybe, I reckon, he's playing favourites, and that's not really fair, is it? Screw you, God, and your little God's pets. You know, like teacher's pet, but not. But hey, you know, we haven't heard a story yet. Maybe I'm being a little bit judgmental, okay? Let's hear her out.
Some of you watching this video have been asking God, why is it that I keep failing my driving test? You're saying to God, why is it that I failed 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, even 10 times? Some of you are wondering, why is it that I just can't seem to pass? Every time I do the test, it's something different. It's just like something suddenly comes against me. It's like something just suddenly, you know, goes wrong, or, you know, the examiner makes me do something that wasn't right, or an issue crops up every single time.
Yeah, you know, that just happens. Some people are bad at tests or under pressure and they get worried and anxious. It's perfectly normal. Mostly, I would say it's like a confidence thing. In those situations, the thing to do is like work on learning some relaxation exercises, maybe work with a counselor or a therapist to improve your self-confidence, you know, figure out how to help yourself. I mean, it's a very common thing with a very simple cause and a solution that is very simple but does take a lot of hard work. I'm not going to deny that. I mean, it makes perfect sense that the cause behind this is a self-confidence thing. I mean, what else could it be? No, wait, demons. Probably demons. Because that makes sense.
It all began actually with one of my friends. It all began with her telling me about what God showed her in the spiritual realm, what was going on when she was unable to actually pass her driving test after a numerous amount of times. So before I started, I had a friend who explained to me that they had difficulty in passing their driving test. My friend wasn't really praying about it. She wasn't really taking it that seriously in prayer. And she went to bed and she had a dream. And what she dreamt was she saw the driver's car that she'd been learning in. But in the corner of her eye, she saw a predator. She saw a white crocodile in the corner. It was almost as though you couldn't completely see it. But when you closed your eyes and opened it, it was closer. When she closed her eyes and opened again, the crocodile came closer. When she closed her eyes and opened it again, the crocodile literally was almost right at her. She knew as soon as she woke up that there was opposition against her driving. And this opposition was not just a physical thing. It wasn't just because she hadn't practiced enough. She knew how to drive. It was because something was stopping her being on those roads.
Is this just not like a typical anxiety dream? It's not a sign from God. You're not seeing demons. That's just an anxiety dream. We all have them.
She explained to me that after she committed herself to prayer, the next time she did her test, she supernaturally passed.
Yeah, because if demons exist and they can really influence our behaviour, I'm pretty sure they have nothing better to do than stop a teenage girl from passing her driving test. Priorities, man. I mean, let's be logical here for a second, right? You're telling me there are demons in this world with the power to influence our actions and what happens to us, and they have nasty, mean intentions. And so the main thing they choose to do with that power is say, lol, I'm going to make it difficult for this person to pass their driving test. I mean, are you kidding me? No, they could be out there, killing babies, kicking dogs, making sure Love Island's renewed for another season. But no, they're here saying, let's make a driving test a bit difficult, shall we? Seriously, can we stop passing personal responsibility off onto others? This is what I was saying at the beginning, and this is kind of the reason for the video. As funny as it might be to laugh at someone thinking that, ooh, demons influence their driving test, yes, that's silly. The truth is, here's a woman who is not taking any personal responsibility for either her failures or successes. And that's just not really a healthy attitude to have. And the thing is, she seems like a really nice, really smart, really lovely, intelligent woman. But without any personal responsibility, it's not great, is it? She's not really going to grow up to be a functional member of society, is she? She failed her first test because either she wasn't good enough or she didn't have the confidence to do it. I don't want to sound harsh, but it was her fault and her problem and her reactions to how her examiner was treating her and acting. And yes, sometimes these outside influences can have a bit of an effect. Maybe the traffic was dodgy that day. Maybe her examiner was a bit sucky, but ultimately it's her responsibility how she responded and reacted to that. The fact she failed was her fault, not demons. And in the end, she managed to pass her test on the second try. Not because God helped her. No, stop giving him the credit. You did it, or she did it. She's the one who was being awesome there. She's the one who put the hard work in, tried hard, learnt more stuff. She's the one who overcame that kind of anxiety and self-doubt. She's the one who got the confidence, got the skills. She's the one who is the success, not God. She shouldn't be afraid to celebrate that and the fact that she did something awesome.
There's some people who are watching this right now who they can't even handle what I'm about to reveal, what I'm about to say, because they are literally in the shallow. They don't understand the deep things of the spirit. They don't understand the spiritual realm. They don't understand spiritual implications. They don't understand these things. So for them, it's too much to handle. For them, they'll probably say, she's bluffing. I don't really get it. But there's some of you who are going to watch this and really and truly it's going to speak to your spirit, and there's going to be a shift in your driving and your life.
Oh, my bad. Sorry. Of course. Yeah. I can't understand your illogical, irrational way of thinking because I'm not smart enough. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Got it. Just like I'm sure you've never seen Bigfoot because you're just not intellectual enough. Or you've never seen a unicorn because you're just not quite smart enough. Or you can't fly because you just haven't opened your heart properly to it yet. Once you do, you'll be able to fly and do whatever you want. Because I'm telling you it's true. It's in a book somewhere. Believe me.
For those of you who don't know, I did an intensive course, an intensive 7-day course. Every time I went to bed, I would have nightmares of my driving. Every time. And every time I closed my eyes after my driving lessons, I would see a car crash. I would see me getting dragged into the bus lanes. I would see confusion everywhere. I remember having a dream where I was literally like taking the test, but I was sitting in the passenger seat. I couldn't see outside of the window. The test was going like the lights. I was coming up to the lights. My hand wasn't on the steering wheel. Everything was all over the place. And I was like, what is going on?
Back to the personal responsibility thing. This is completely normal when you're anxious and nervous and worried. It's a perfectly normal response to a stressful situation like a driving test or an exam or a job interview or anything else like that. When I'm worried or stressed or exhausted, whether that's physically or mentally or whatever, I have a lot of nightmares. I have crazy nightmares, intense nightmares, horrible nightmares. It's your brain's way of processing and working through all the worry and everything that you're feeling. It's perfectly normal and it happens to everyone. Most people. A lot of people. And I mean, let's be honest here and get specific with driving. Driving is terrifying. You're in this huge metal box, surrounded by other metal boxes, all speeding around each other, and you're just hoping you know how to control your box properly, and hoping that everyone else knows how to control their box properly, and that they're concentrating and being safe, and actually paying attention to what they're doing. You're putting your life not only in your own hands, but other people's hands. Cars and driving is terrifying when you think about it. When you're new to it, especially when all you've done is like a 7-day intensive driving course like this girl, yeah, that's gonna be terrifying. You are gonna be anxious and worried. That is normal. And there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you acknowledge that that's what the problem is and don't try and blame demons. That's when there's issues.
Then comes the test day. And I remember on the test day of my driving exam, you know, I'd learn all of the maneuvers. We'd learn everything. And I was at the test, and I remember suddenly a wave of panic came over me. And I was thinking, what's going on? And I suddenly felt like I needed to pray in the spirit before I even did my test. It was kind of like the spirit was saying, alarm bells, alarm bells. There's some sort of attack going on. There's something to counteract or counter me. There's something that it wants to stop you from passing your test, right?
Or, alternative explanation for what happened here, right? She's understandably nervous about the test she has to take. She starts getting anxious, and so her brain turns to what she normally does when she's anxious, and she prays. It's like, no, quick, do the thing you normally do to calm yourself down. Talk to yourself. Talk to this being that you think is God. Prayer. Basically, it's the same thing as what I'm doing when I do my counting and my breathing exercises. It's the same thing people do when they practice mindfulness or meditation or whatever else people have. It's a self-calming mechanism. It's a thing she's been doing to train her brain to relax when she feels stress. Does that make sense? It's nothing supernatural. It's not that she's actually contacting God and God is listening. It's that over the years she's trained her brain so this set of actions calms her down. This set of actions makes her feel safe. So I'm not saying that prayer in itself is a bad thing, because ultimately that is what's calming her and helping her out. But she has to realise that the reason for it comes from within herself, and it's her own skill and strength that's doing that and calming her down, not God. It's not some supernatural power. And that same thing isn't going to help everyone else, because people have to come up with their own calming mechanisms. They have to figure out what works for them. It's okay her saying, no, you're just not praying hard enough. You're not praying properly. You're not doing it right. Just pray more. Because that's not going to work for a lot of people. Sometimes you need to figure out what it is that calms yourself and understand why it's calming you. It's not an external God waving some little magic dust over you and you calm down. You're influencing how your brain is working and you're calming yourself down. I don't know if I'm explaining this right. I'm quite tired. If you want to find out more about this stuff, actually, I think I've definitely recommended this book a hell of a lot before, but Ruby Wax's Sane New World is fantastic for describing how the brain works and how mindfulness has a really positive calming effect on the brain, and how it can help you kind of I don't want to say rewire your brain, but kind of retrain where your main pathways are in your brain. Again, I'm not explaining this right. Read the book, it's fantastic. I'll leave an affiliate link for it down in the description below, so if you get it, not only are you getting a great book, you'll support my channel. I recommend it. It explains it better than I do when I go off on these tangents when I'm tired like this. I'd like to blame the wine, but I've had 2 sips. I'm already hitting the mic. You'd think I was drunk. I'm just sleepy. It's 11 at night here. It's tired times. Anyway, then she goes on to tell a story about how she had a different instructor than what she was used to, and she captions it with, "I honestly believe that this was the enemy speaking through this man." Again, if demons exist, if demons have the power to possess people and talk through their mouths and voices and whatever, do we really think they have nothing better to do than disrupt the driving test of a teenage girl? I mean, actually, she does kind of address this by saying apparently they want to disrupt her driving test in particular because she wants to use this car to drive around and minister to people and spread the word of God, and that's why they were bothered about her test. That's why, they were trying to stop it. But again, couldn't they just have someone kill her if they were really bothered? If demons can affect what people say to her, maybe they could just possess someone until they bully her into killing herself. Maybe they could just possess someone so they crash a bus that she's on. Maybe they could possess someone so they actually kill her. I know these things sound horrible, and obviously I do not wish them upon her. I do not want any of this to happen. But if demons were real and they were really trying to stop her spreading the word of God, you'd think they'd be a bit more efficient than adding a minor inconvenience to her driving test, which delays her having a license by 10 days. Apparently demons are just a bit crappy, aren't they? Who's hiring these demons anyway? Ugh, useless.
But this time, as I went to go into the usual normal left lane that I usually go into, he was like to me, don't go into that lane. I said to him, I can go in that lane because you can go straight ahead in this lane. I was like, I feel like I've been pushed into a trap. That's literally how I felt. Guys, I felt like I'd been pushed into a trap, forced to go into the wrong lane by this examiner.
Damn demons at it again. Ugh.
And as I was driving off in this middle lane, because we were at the traffic lights, I began to panic. I began to just feel so panicked and overwhelmed. And it was just, I was like, what's going on? We took off when the light turned green, and then suddenly he just grabbed the wheel and he was just like to me, oh, come back here. Like, he was like, watch it, come here.
Oh my God, this is like such a metaphor for like demons and how they're like trying to like pull us into the wrong lane, like away from God, and how you need to stay in the right lane because what you know this right lane is God's lane and you need to be in God's lane and not in the demon's lane, you know what I mean? Oh my God, it's like totally a metaphor, yeah. Don't know what's wrong with me. And then she goes on and complains about her instructor who says this.
Then literally he was like, it's like all of the odds were just against you.
And there you have it, people. Indisputable proof of demons. Video done. My argument's debunked. My channel is basically going to get shut down now. Demons.
But I think sometimes we actually forget that there are certain oppositions stopping us from achieving God's will. And I think we forget that.
Of course, it's not that God doesn't exist. That would be too logical. And obviously it can't be that God makes mistakes because why would he? He's God. No. The obvious answer is that suffering happens not because God doesn't exist, but because more improbable and unprovable invisible beings do exist who are like totally the opposite of God, but like not quite as strong as him, but there's a lot of them, so they kind of have a little bit of influence and something reasons, yeah, that like totally makes sense.
I went into serious prayer, like serious. I was up praying with two of my friends committed to pray. One of them committed to praying with me and for me every day from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. We just kept on saying, you know what? Knock, ask and you shall receive. Knock and the door shall be open. And we said, we're going to storm heaven and we're literally going to pray about this driving seriously. And I was praying and praying and praying and praying and praying. Like, it was just like really intense. Like, I was just going for it.
Yeah, because why bother actually acting for yourself when you can just sit at home and talk to yourself and think about stuff? Why bother doing anything to make your life better when you can just ask an invisible being for it, who may or may not give it to you, and then just wait and see if it happens? You don't need to do anything yourself. Don't bother with any of that personal responsibility stuff.
I now had a dream one night. In this dream, I saw my car, the driving car that I'd been learning in. I saw that car, guys. Standing next to the car was a demon in the form of a human being. And the demon looked so angry with me. In the dream, I was driving and I passed my test. The demon looked at me with the most straight face of all, so angry and just so upset with me for passing, and looked at me and said to me, I can't stand in your way anymore, and disappeared. Jesus. I knew when I had that dream that there had been demonic forces wanting to stop me from passing my test, and God was showing me that victory is mine because I passed in the test, in the dream, and that demon that was opposing me was no longer able to stop me anymore.
100% legit proof. What more do you guys need, really? Ugh.
On the day of the test, when I went to go and do it, guys, suddenly I just began laughing. I was laughing and laughing and laughing, and then I just heard, you have the victory. And I was like, Jesus, you've given me the victory. Thank you, Lord.
Yep, that's normal.
This time, even though we had an hour of practice before in my previous test, in this test, we literally had 10 minutes less time, and I was more calm than I was when I did the first one.
You know what? So on her second test, maybe she was just calmer because she didn't have that huge amount of waiting time before. She's like, oh, I had less time to practice. And so maybe she just had less time to get anxious, less time to worry about stuff. I was terrible in school for always being late for school and stuff like that. And mostly there was a whole lot of reasons. Everyone just thought I was unorganised and stupid and lazy. No, mostly it was because I didn't want to go to school. I was trying to avoid being there as much as possible. I didn't want to be in form period because I didn't like the people in there. They made me feel like crap. So I just tried to miss it as much as possible and just pop my head in the last minute and be like, I'm here, put me on the register, please. And the other reason was that I had a lot of... I think I was depressed at the time, and I didn't have a label for it back then. I wasn't medicated for it, nothing like that, but I almost definitely was. And a lot of it meant that I either didn't sleep at all or I overslept a hell of a lot. And it was an absolute mess, and I struggled to wake up in the mornings, especially because I didn't want to go to school. So anyway, there were a couple of times that I turned up quite early for exams, but most of the time I was absolutely rushing, and I got there like 2 minutes before the exam started and like rushed in and whatever. And it sounds stupid because everyone would always be like, oh, get there early, relax a bit, spend some time going over your notes. That didn't help me. The exams I did best on were the ones that I just ran into last minute because I didn't have any time to get myself worked up or worried or anxious. And I know this doesn't work for everyone, so I'm not recommending it as like make sure you're always late. Like, that's not what I'm recommending. I'm just saying that's what worked for me because it meant my brain didn't have the time to get worked up and anxious beforehand. And so maybe that's what happened here. She didn't have that time before the exam to get worked up and anxious and worried and kind of overthink everything. Maybe she just kind of relied on her instincts and her skills and the things she'd learned, and she was a hell of a lot calmer in general, you know?
Thanks be to the living God, guys. I passed my test, and I was like, God, you're actually faithful to your word. Like, I actually passed before I officially started at uni. I was like, I was like, you are God. Like, he is amazing.
Yeah, God, he's like totally amazing. This is so impressive because like last week was the 2-year anniversary of my friend's baby dying. God could have done something to save that baby. God could have made sure that baby didn't get ill and die, but instead he decided to wait, bide his time and use his powers to help this teenage girl in her driving test. Because that's what a good guy God is. That's what makes sense. Yay, God. And so on that note, I think that sums up a lot of my feelings and issues with religion in general, and how even if a God was real, I don't think he would deserve worshipping or respecting all that much. That said, I still don't think a God is real, and I think there's a hell of a lot of problems with this mindset of not accepting personal responsibility and passing off both your failures and successes to someone else. I know it's got a little bit serious at the end, but I did try and make this quite a fun video so we could have a little bit of a giggle, but let me know your thoughts on it down in the comments below. This girl seems lovely, if a little naive and misguided, so no hate to her, don't send any hate her way, not her fault at all, just... I don't know, let's try and kind of bring these conversations up more where we try and show the logical reasons behind these things rather than attributing them to supernatural means. Basically, the point of this video was not only to have a giggle, but to start a conversation. Also, if you want to hear me talk more about things like atheism and stuff like that in general, please don't forget to get your tickets to DaveCon. 4th of April here in London, you can come see me speak. It's only like 20 quid, I think. There's also going to be like Aaron Ra and Lloyd Evans. Steve is going to be there doing a podcast with Dave, and I am going to be on a panel with a couple of amazing, wonderful women talking about what it's like to be a woman as an activist and a YouTuber in the field of atheism, which up until a couple of years back tended to be a bit of a boys' club. So it's going to be a really fun little evening, and afterwards you can come have a pint with us, have a drink, have a chat, get to know us, and it's going to be amazing. I'll leave links for that down in the description below, but for now, thank you for watching today. I appreciate you guys so much, and I will see you again very soon. Oh, also before I get, thank you to everyone who sent me so much love and support in the last 2 videos. You're amazing. I love you. Okay, bye. It's so silly, I'm sorry, but thank you.